Hey guys, welcome to the Microsoft Entra Learning Series. Yoel Horowitz and Jess Suri here. We are program managers in the Microsoft Identity and Network Access Group. Thank you so much for stopping by for another video. In the previous video, we introduced you to the Azure Active Directory custom extensions and custom claims providers, and how they can help you customizing security tokens issued by Azure Active Directory returned to your application. In this video, we'll show you how to create a custom extension and configure custom claims provider for an application. To get a security token and test the configuration, you will use the JWT.ms application. It's a Microsoft-owned web application that displays the decoded contents of a JWT security token. And finally, you will learn how to secure a custom extension REST API endpoint you develop. To create a custom extension, you will first create an Azure Function app. The function will be the source of extra claims for your security tokens. You can also use any programming language, framework, and hosting environment to create and host your custom extension REST API. Register a custom extension and reference the Azure Function app. Then you will also register an application that will be used to issue a bearer token to secure the call from your Azure AD to the Azure function. Register the JWT.ms application. Then you will configure a custom claims provider for the JWT.ms application and specify the attributes to add to the security token that return to the JWT.ms application. Next, you will test the configuration with the JWT.ms application and investigate the return security token. You will also learn how to secure Azure Function app with OS2 bearer token issued by Azure Active Directory. Start by creating an HTTP trigger function API in Azure Portal. Sign into the Azure Portal with your Azure Administrator account. From the Azure Portal, search and select Function app. Then select Create. On the Basics page, select your Azure subscription. Name your function app. The name must be globally unique. You can create a new resource group or select an existing one. For the Publish option, select Code. For the runtime stack, choose .NET. Version 6 or higher. Region, choose one that is close to other services that your function app access. For the plan type, select Consumption, Serverless. Select Review plus Create, and then select Create. Once the Azure function is created, you need to create an HTTP trigger function. The HTTP trigger function lets you invoke a function with an HTTP request. To open the function app, select Go to Resource. From the menu, select Functions and then select Create. In the Create function page, leave the development environment property as Develop in Portal and then select HTTP Trigger Template. Under the template details, enter a name for the new function. For the authorization level, select Function and then select Create. To edit the function, use the code snippet published in our documentation. From the menu, select Code and Test. Open the Configure Custom Claims Provider article. Copy the code snippet and replace it with the one provided by the Azure Function app. The code starts by reading the incoming JSON object that is sent by Azure Active Directory to your REST API. In this example, it reads a correlation ID value. Then the code returns a collection of attributes, including the original correlation ID, the version of your REST API, date of birth, and custom roles that return to Azure Active Directory. Select Save to save the changes. From the menu, select Get Function URL and copy the URL. Next, you will create a custom extension in Azure Active Directory. The custom extension will contain information about your REST API endpoint, the attributes that it returns, the credentials to call the REST API, and when the REST API should be called. To create a custom extension from Azure Portal, open the Azure Active Directory. From the menu, select Enterprise Applications. Under Manage, select Custom Authentication Extensions. Select Create a Custom Extension. In the Basics, select the Token Issue and Start event and select Next. Provide a name for your custom extension, for example, Token Issuance Event. In the target URL, paste your Azure Function App URL, the one that you copied earlier. Select Next. In the API Authentication, select Create a New App Registration option to create a new app registration that represents your Azure Function App. You can also select an existing app. Give the app a name, for example, Azure Functions Authentication Events API. Select Next. In the claims, enter the attributes you expect your custom extension to read from your REST API. Add the following claims: date of birth, custom roles, API version, and correlation ID. Select Next and Create, which registers the custom extension and the associated app registration. After your custom extension is created, you will be taken to the overview page of the new custom extension. Select the Grant Permission button to allow custom extension associated with the app to receive HTTP request triggered by an authentication event. The payload to the REST API can contain sensitive information, so your Azure Active Directory Global Administrator must complete this step. To continue, select Accept. To get a token and test the custom claims provider, use the JWT.ms application. In Azure Portal, from the navigation bar, go one level up by selecting the Enterprise Applications link. Then select App Registrations, New Registration. Enter a name for your application. For example, My Test Application. Under Supported Account Types, select Accounts in this organizational directory only. In the Redirect URI, select Web, and then for the URL enter https://jwt.ms. Select Register to complete the registration. For testing with the jwt.ms application, you must enable the OAuth2 implicit flow. In the My Test Application registration, from the menu select Authentication. Under Implicit Granted and Hybrid Flows, select the ID Tokens checkbox. Select Save to update the application authentication. To add claims to your application, you first need to enable claims mapping on your application. In the My Test Application registration, under Manage, select Manifest. In the manifest, locate the Accept Map Claims attribute and set the value to True. Select Save to save the changes. Next, you are going to configure a custom claims provider for your application and specify the claims to be added to the security token to return to the jwt.ms application. In the Overview page, under Manage Application in Local Directory, select My Test Application. This will take you to the Enterprise Application or Service Principal of the application. Under Manage, select Single Sign-On. Under Attributes and Claims, select Edit. Expand the Advanced Settings menu. Next to the Custom Claims Provider, select Configure. Expand the Custom Claims Provider drop-down box, and then select the custom extension you created earlier. Select Save. Select Add New Claim, and provide a name for the claim you want to be issued. For example, date of birth. Under Source, select Attribute, and then from the Source Attribute drop-down, choose Custom Claims Provider.date of birth. Select Save. Repeat this process to add the custom roles, API version, and correlation ID attributes. You can also add other claims that are not returned by the custom extension. For example, name. Then select user.displayname. To test the configuration, first create an HTTP authentication request. Copy the authentication request from our documentation. From the Overview page, copy the tenant ID and add it to the authorization request URL. Also copy the application ID and add it to the authorization request URL. Then open a new in private browser window and navigate to the authorization request that you created. Sign in with your credentials. If asked, accept the requested permissions. The security token contains information that was returned by the Azure function, including the date of birth, custom roles, the API version, and the correlation ID. Azure Active Directory Custom Extension obtains an access token using the application you registered when you created the custom extension. The access token will be sent in the HTTP authorization request to your REST API as a bearer token. You need to validate the bearer token, especially in production environments. To protect your Azure function, in Azure Portal, navigate and select the function app you previously created. From the menu, select Authentication. Select Add Identity Provider. Select Microsoft as the identity provider. Under App Registration type, select Pick up an existing app registration in this directory, and then pick up the Azure Functions Authentication Events API app registration you previously registered when you created the custom extension. Under Unauthenticated Request, select HTTP 404 Not Found. To improve the function app performance, unselect the token store option. Select Add to add authentication to your Azure function. To validate the bearer token, there is one important extra step. You should always verify that the token was issued by Azure Active Directory first-party application. For details, check out our documentation. In summary, Azure Active Directory allows you to interact with the external system during an authentication. The custom extension contains information about your REST API endpoint, in this example, the Azure Function App, the credentials to call to the REST API, the attributes that it returns, and when the REST API should be called. Custom Claims Provider uses a custom extension to add additional claims to token returns to your application. We demonstrated the sign-in flow to the JW.ms application that you registered and then configure the Custom Claims Provider. Next, you learn how to secure the Azure function. Thanks for watching the video, hope you enjoy it, and see you soon. Goodbye.